Welcome back to the Flying High on Consciousness podcast. I am so excited for today's episode. I had a dear soul sister, Hunter, who came on the podcast today after some massive miracles in her life using the keys in one of my online programs she invested in, Manifest Key Portal. She manifested her dream apartment, her business, and quitting her serving job for good because her business is now thriving at $8,000 a month and growing. Now, these are the tools that you can use to create miracles in your life and however that looks for you. Listen to the episode through the lens of the energetics and the choices that she made out of courage that were seemingly illogical at the time, and how those choices that her soul knew were a soul yes brought about miracles in her life. Without further ado, let's go to the show. Hello, beautiful souls. So today on the podcast, I have a very, very special guest and soul sister, Hunter Elise. And it was super synchronistic as always with how we met. Wait, I actually want you to tell this story, but I know you took Decoding Manifestation, which is called Manifest Key Portal, and I'm so excited for you to share all your wins and manifestations. And you took Reiki from me. Was that before or after?
Before.
Before. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I just remembered that. I totally forgot you.
It was like this time this time last year, I believe, like around here, October maybe.
Yeah. It was almost exactly this time last year.
Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. I remember it was almost Halloween weekend.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm teaching Reiki again, actually.
Yeah.
I haven't taught it in a little bit because I've been so busy with other things on the shamanic healing, but I am teaching one for anybody listening. End of Vancouver, level 1 and 2. Oh, hopefully you'll do level 2 too, because you haven't done level 2 yet.
Yeah, I am hoping to.
That would be so fun.
Yeah.
Okay. So why don't you introduce yourself, what you do, the certification that you just completed, and then let's get into story time.
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, I'm Hunter Elise. I am, I'm a trauma therapist in the province of BC, more specifically in Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I also just completed my certification as a trauma and resilience life coach. I have training in somatic experiencing as well. So I love to combine, somatic experiencing work in both like my trauma therapy and like in a life coach capacity as well. So I'm looking forward to expanding that part of my business in the near future as well. Stay tuned.
Yeah. And you do breathwork as well?
Oh, yeah. There's that as well. Yes. I'm also, a certified breathwork facilitator. And again, like I would say, like I incorporate that more like into my therapy and into my coaching more so than like a standalone kind of offering.
Yeah.
But
Same here. 100%. Love that. Okay. So, congrats on your certification.
Thank you.
Let's get actually, wait, let's tell the story first about how you found me, because I don't even know. I know it was through Jess, and I love a little like story to illuminate how these manifestations can or how synchronicities can connect to our vision. We don't need to know how about
totally,
or like as Jess as a invitation, which I'll come back to after.
Yeah. So, I mean, I couldn't even go back so far as to how I like was connected with Jess. I'm not even sure how we connected, but I knew Jess just like through Instagram, like not even in person. I followed her. And we, talked a lot in like voice notes and the DMs. In the DMs. And she had invited me to her birthday, which was a shamanic breathwork ceremony facilitated by you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So powerful. You
Yeah.
didn't.
Well, I didn't know. I wasn't able to make it. I planned on making it and it just didn't end up being in the cards that time. But obviously that put you on my radar. And yeah, I started following you and it was interesting because um Reiki is something that I think was always kind of on my radar. And when I say always, like I'm talking back to like God when I was like 13. Like I don't know why, but like I was always kind of
Yeah.
aware of, and I didn't even necessarily understand it completely. It was just like a no, you need to do that someday. So
Yeah.
yeah, I started following you, and then you posted your training. So I'm like, perfect spot to connect, right?
And the
So
first time, wow, we share that
yeah.
actually. The first time I studied Reiki, I was in elementary and I totally forgot about it. My
Oh
best friend was
yeah, you told me that.
Japanese.
Yeah.
And years later, because I went through a phase of thinking this was all like BS, and I'm like, what's
Mhm.
trauma and like manifestation? That's a joke, haha. Now that's what I do for a living. Teach people how to do
Yeah.
that, facilitate trauma healing so that they can manifest. But it was like, and then it was like a healer. I got pushed deep into my own healing because I had so much trauma. And I remember going to a Reiki healer. My friend was like, just go to this girl. And I was like, okay. And she was like, you're a natural born healer. Like, you need to study Reiki, and like, you're going to help so many people heal. And you're going to have this like business, like online business, helping people around the world eventually. And I'm like, this girl, like, what is like, what? No. And like, now it's like come to fruition. We have people in 5 continents now,
Wow.
which is super cool. Yeah, but anyways, so I ended up taking, that was the first certification I ended up taking in the healing arts, um, which is like so crazy that, and then I like went back and I was like, wait, I studied Reiki as a kid, but like my whole family made fun of me, and like they were like, when I would like see things, they were like, oh, you're like literally crazy. Like, don't do that. Like, don't say that. You're going to end up in like a mental institute. So I like shut it down and I completely
Yeah.
blocked that out of my memory until I was like, whoa, wait, I studied this as a kid. So that's super cool. And yeah, Jess, if you're listening to this, we love you. You are awesome. So like the craziest thing happened. This is why I started teaching Reiki in Vancouver, was because of Jess. So I was certified for like at least a year and a half, and I had helped my teacher teach, but I never taught it by myself. And this is where, guys, like for you guys listening, you need to trust the timing and the guidance. I remember I was living in a temple in Pinecrest in Florida a few years ago when I'd left Canada. I didn't really have a plan, and that's when I really learned to manifest, because like I had to for my survival. And like so many miracles happened. And I'm like in this temple and I'm like, I'm going to launch my Reiki course. So I did, and nobody signed up. And then I ended up breaking my foot, so I couldn't even go back anyways. And I'm a projector in human design, so I need an invitation.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, just like followed the guidance. Everything started like lining up. Did my shamanic training, how I met my shamanic teacher. Maybe I'll do an episode, was like super synchronistic and divine and like not planned. But I'd set the intention that I wanted somebody who knew how to protect the space, because I was giving Reiki sessions and I was getting attacked. And then I came back and was doing, I got asked to do some ceremonies in Vancouver by my business coaches who I had hired for a little bit, his business. And Jess was filming one of them. And she had messaged me the night before and been like, I got a message that I'm supposed to study with you. Do you teach? And I'm like, well, yeah, like I teach Reiki. And then she's like, when are you teaching your next one? I'm like, I don't know. And then I saw her the next day. She videotaped the shamanic breathwork ceremony, and she came up to me after and she was like, I don't know what you just did, but that was like crazy. And I'm like, I was like super shy about like my craft back then. I'm like, yeah, thanks. I don't know. It's like, how do you know like what to do? I'm like, I don't know. My hands just get guided. and like, it's like energies come through me. It's the energies that I work with. And then a few other people came up to me at that ceremony and they were like, can we study with you? And I was like, okay, I'm choosing the date right here, right now. So it was like already 4 people were enrolled, and then 2 people signed up distance. And it was like, it was like, she was literally like my invitation to not only do that, but to be like, okay, like I need to start to be open about my gifts, because at that point 98% of my business was like underground, meaning I would like manifest clients, but I didn't talk about it on social media. I was like so like in my shell about it. I would get super weird about it because I was so worried about what people would think.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like that was so divinely orchestrated. And that's how this work like really works. When we start to like the trauma and understand these universal principles and get in touch with our soul, it's like we will just get guided and everything will start to work out for us. So yeah, we love you, Jess. Thank you. Okay, what is your favorite? Actually, firstly, can you tell like a couple of the wins that happened as soon as you signed up for now what's called Manifest Key Portal, but previously Decoding Manifestation?
So, okay, hold on. Can you give me like a month? Because I feel like there's so many things. Like, what month was this? Because there's so many things that have happened. I'm like, what were the things that happened at the beginning? Was this like April?
No, it was January. So
January.
It was literally a couple days. I have a screenshot.
Okay.
And you're like,
yeah.
I've ever made. And it was totally
okay. I remember. Yeah. So there's a lot of things that have happened. But yeah, like January, I do recall, like wanting to do more of kind of the work that I'm like I wasn't a registered counselor yet, right?
Yeah.
But I was, like doing like therapy and doing kind of like different like healings and stuff with folks. I had finished my Reiki. And I just like out of nowhere, like a connection that I had made, I guess in the previous summer, had reached out being like, hey, was wondering if you could kind of support me like as a second person in the room for this like intensive kind of trauma healing session, weekend, whatever you want to call it. And again, like I think I sent you a picture of just like the cash in my hand, because I was like, this is the easiest money I've ever made. And like, I didn't initiate it. Like, I didn't like say, hey, is there anyone I can support? Like, I'm still like in practicum, but I'm really wanting to kind of get my feet wet.
Yeah.
It just kind of came to me. Right.
Right. And I think it was supposed to be volunteer, wasn't it? From my understanding. And she just like,
I think I didn't know. Like, I don't think money was talked about, and I was, open and willing to do it for free regardless. So I didn't ask, right? I'm like, a great experience. Like, I'm in. And then, the money just felt like a bonus at the end.
And it like, I just want to talk about this for a second, because it gets to be that way. Like, it gets to be like, I actually love teaching about money, but it's never about the money. That might sound weird, but like when we have a vision and when it's helping other people, and then we clear the distortions about money and receiving, we have to do both. We clear those, and then we're like, hey, I'm just going to do this. Then we're always supported. And sometimes it comes in the ways that we like couldn't expect. Like the amount of times I'm like, I'm going to help with this thing, or I'm just going to like give advice to this person, and then all of a sudden I'll receive like abundance in a way that isn't even connected, but I know it's like connected. And like, I remember you messaged me and you're like, hey, I feel so called to this course, but like I'm so scared and blah 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 to like invest, but I'm going to. And I'm like, I get it, because the amount of times I've invested, and I'm like, I don't know where the abundance is going to come. And it's scary, but it always comes as long as it's in line with like our mission, right? At least in my experience. And like, I think there's so many like constructs of how like receiving abundance or money should be hard. We should suffer. Like I have a whole just like masterclass called Suffering Isn't Sacred. But like, it doesn't need to be that way. We can enjoy what we're doing and then also get compensated for it.
Okay, you go ahead. No, I'm like, there's an important context piece I forgot here. Like, and it alludes exactly to what you just kind of ended with, right? Is that, remember, like in my Reiki training with you in October, like it was coming through so strongly of like, I need to quit my serving job, right? Yeah, that was keeping me from like expanding my breathwork offerings, my Reiki offerings, my like assisting, psychologists and trauma therapists and in somatic work, right? Like I was holding on to this serving job that, I mean, God, I served for so many years, but like that was preventing me from like, like having the room and spending the energy to kind of step into my work. So yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention that's an important context piece because I worked through some of that. Like after the Reiki training, I quit my job. Well, divine intervention, a lot of things happened with that job, and I quit in December. And then January, I signed up for your course, and then boom, like things that are in alignment that are bringing me money with ease started coming in. So that's an important piece to add. Yeah.
Oh, important. And I totally get it because I served for 11 years and it was like the golden handcuffs. I was so shackled, but I'm like, this is the only way I know how to make money. And then we lost my serving job, and I simultaneously was doubling on Sabrina, lost that too. It was like the best thing that ever happened to me because it opened up this whole new thing. And I tried to go back. I was already on this journey. I was already trained in a few of the healing arts, not all of the ones that I'm trained in now, but I was like, I was getting clients like in the most random ways, and that still happens, always so synchronistic. But I was like, oh no, but like my friend invited me to the serving job. She's like, you don't even need to apply. Like you have the job. It was easy for me because I've been doing it for so long. I got there and like sitting down and signing the paperwork, and I'm like, it was only twice a week. I was on the patio in Vancouver, which is beautiful. And my whole body was like instant pain and contraction. I'm like, oh, this is not in alignment. And I knew, but I didn't have the faith that I have now because I didn't have the evidence yet.
Yeah.
This is before the first time I left Canada, like not knowing what was going to happen. And so I kept hearing this message, you're going to miss a timeline. You're going to miss a timeline. You're going to miss a timeline. Like you need to quit. So I got injured 3 times in the course of 3 weeks. And then I was like, yeah, I will quit. And I kept pushing it back. I'm like, just in 2 weeks, I'll quit in a month. And I felt bad because they didn't have a lot of staff. And then a dude died at the restaurant on shift. And like so much of the staff quit. So I was like, oh, I feel like I'm an awful person. Which, key point, if anybody is struggling with feeling like an awful person when you're putting yourself first, like you are actually doing everybody in the world a service when you're putting yourself first because you're showing up as your best. But anyways, that's not the point here. That was just a side note that came through so strongly. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to quit in October. And I was going to join this container that I felt really called to. And how I found out about it was so synchronistic. And the guy was like, hey, the calls are on Wednesday. And I'm like, oh, I can't join until October because of my serving job. And then that day at work, I was like, okay, I'm going to quit. It came through again. You're going to miss a timeline, quit. And I was like, oh, and then there was another sign that I didn't want to listen to at first. And this is what happens when you don't listen to the sign. It'll be like, hey, here's an injury, or here's like an illness, or here's like something. And then it'll be like taps, and then a little bit stronger. And then it's like a 2x4. So they didn't want to let me do my Reiki facilitator training. And my teacher, she moved to Montreal, she's like this beautiful 70-year-old woman. I love her so much. But that was the last one she was doing. And she was like only doing it. She did it once a year. And then she didn't know she was moving at this time, but she was like, this is like the last time I think I'm going to teach this in Vancouver. And I'm like, I really wanted to do it with her just because we'd built such a strong relationship. And so what happened was right after I heard that message, and I'm like, yeah, I got it. I'll do it in October. And like, maybe I'll just not do the Reiki. slipped, fell, like my knee buckled in, and I tore my ACL, and it literally kicked me out of that job. The next day, I got 4 new Reiki clients in the most random way, and I ended up doing obviously my training. And then that container that I joined, I ended up manifesting. The guy who ran it was also had like this high level mastermind with like very successful business people. It's $25,000 for like 6 months US. I was not there in my business at that point, and I saw myself there. I ended up manifesting going to that, and that's where I met my shamanic teacher. But I would have missed that entire timeline if I stayed at the serving job. So this is like so important because it can be so scary. And I've had so many people like get attuned to Reiki, and then like they'll like lose a job that's out of alignment, and then another one will come in. But it's so scary when you're like, oh, I just lost this thing, or like I went through a breakup. Like, believe me, in my Reiki 3, I went through a breakup literally in the middle of that training. Things were illuminated that were not conscious, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, whoa. So like these things happen, but they happen for us because we're no longer a match. And so when we trust that, it's like feeling like we're gonna we're like, I say like it's like a backdrop almost on a trampoline, but you don't know the trampoline's there, and you just have to trust that you're not gonna like,
For sure.
hit your back and like break your back or something. But when we do, that's when miracles happen, because the divine will meet us with the courage we have, in my experience. So like, I didn't even know that story before, and that's so cool.
Yeah.
Like I knew part of it, but I hadn't connected the dots. Which is like, now look, like you like having your business, and like imagine you were still in that place with serving, you would have never created all of this other stuff, and you would also never be helping people as much as you are now.
So, absolutely.
Like, amazing. I'm just briefly interrupting the episode for a giddy-worthy announcement. I am so excited to share that Quantum Coding Community, a vortex where miracles are standard, where we come together in unity to create, to compound our frequency, and to really understand the bridge between the science and the spirituality of the quantum activations that we do in the container. This container is only $38 a month, which is literally insane for the value you're getting. With the masterclass every single month, the quantum activation, if you have tried these, you know how powerful they are. And if you haven't, you're in for a treat. We also have a Voxer community for celebration and community support. And we meet live the third Sunday of every single month at 3 p.m. EST. If you cannot make the live calls, yes, they are recorded, and you will have the recordings for the months that you are a part of the community for lifetime access. Just dream with me for a second. Wouldn't it be fun if you knew how to command your thoughts, for them to become your reality? Wouldn't it be amazing if miracles were a standard part of your life? This is a standard for my clients and I, and this is a standard in the vortex. 2 miracles that happened this week with quantum coding are manifesting winning a piece of quantum technology worth thousands of dollars that I really desired and intended for. And due to frequency, not luck, I was the winner of that. And then facilitating the healing of somebody's spine with scoliosis, which is literally a miracle. I used quantum coding to realign her spine. So this technique and formula that I created after being certified in 13 noteworthy modalities has allowed me to facilitate so many miracles like this. If you have not seen these miracle videos, or if you have not seen the testimonials, I will link them in the show notes. And I am inviting you for this to be your reality, a reality where miracles are a standard and you are in deep gratitude for the life that you have created and are creating. Greater levels of prosperity, amazing friendships, amazing tribe in the community is the best tribe ever. Phenomenal relationships, dream jobs, and so much more. I see the universe orchestrating everything in your favor. I see days full of synchronicities and miracles for you. And even if you can't see it yet, I see that for you. So if you are feeling excited, because I am so giddy for you, I invite you to join the Quantum Coding community at only $38 a month for this monthly membership. I'm sending you so much love, so much light. And without further ado, let's go back to the show.
Praising you so much. Okay, so many things happen. Well, what's your favorite manifestation story? What that you've
Honestly, it's my apartment. It's where I'm in right now. Like I'm just like in awe that this, like, do I go into it? Do you want to know? Like,
I want to hear the whole thing because I haven't heard this.
Yeah, I guess not.
And B, for those who are watching this on YouTube, do you want to share your beautiful apartment? Like,
I can share the view, but I still have some unpacking to do on the other side, so I'm not going to show you this side. I just moved recently, but yeah, that's my view.
It's so amazing.
Yeah.
Let's hear the story.
Okay. And I haven't ever put it together concisely in a story to really tell, so I'll just but basically, like, you know, like my last place that I was in, like that was a next level for me. And, you know, when I first got there, like it took a lot of like expanding into like, okay, it's safe to have this place in downtown Vancouver all to yourself. It's more expensive, but so that already was a step up for me. And you know, that was a really like healing period of my life. And then you get to a point when it's just it was no longer in alignment, right? And so
Evelyn, can I just make a point here?
Yeah.
Regarding manifestation. So it's like some people are like, hey, I mean, they're like, this is what I want. But their nervous system is like that, and unconscious is like, well, that's not possible. So then they don't even take the step. So it's so important to be like, okay, what's the, like, know what you want long term, but also what's the next level up from where I am? That's a bit of a stretch that it will allow me to expand and to have the courage and trust. And like, it almost like lights like a conscious fire. And then it's like, okay. And then you focus on that and becoming a match to that. And then you get that. And you're like, okay, well, what's the next level and the next level? And then a few years later, you look back and you're like, whoa. So it's not like oh, I'm just going to get this like one apartment, or I'm going to get this like one job. Like, yes, but then what's next? What's the next level of expansion, of impact, of like creation? And so it's like,
it's not an all or nothing game here, right?
Yeah,
like it's
it's
in stages. And and so like when I was saying like it no longer felt in alignment, I mean, there's a lot of things. Like there was the fact that it was like a studio apartment, and I'm like, you know what, I'm ready to have a bedroom again. Like I'm tired of my cat like waking me up all night. And like, so a bedroom was a big thing. Laundry was a big thing. Like I would love to have laundry. And the other, honestly, I would say this was the most important thing for me is I wanted a balcony, because I am very much an air being, an air water being. And I couldn't even open my windows at my old apartment without fear of like my cat jumping out the window. So I felt like I had no connection to nature in my apartment. And that was really starting to like get to me. Right. And so what this kind of manifestation process looked like for me is like, well, like I just really like started my business, a few months ago. So, like I'm envisioning like, in the next year, in the next 2 years, like this is kind of what I'm picturing. And like, I think I spent a lot of time. The reason I had moved there initially, my last place, was because it was close to the ocean and I love the water. The
Yeah.
water is a home to me. So
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time, like the summer over the past 6 months, anytime I was like in like on like a lakefront beach or
Yeah.
like in a pool or something, I was imagining this being my life. Like I was like in the lakefront or oceanfront, well, not oceanfront, I guess, more like, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
waterfront.
Yeah.
And I'd be in the water and I would be like literally like imagining like, yeah, this is just, I just came down from my house and just jumped in the water and this just gets to be my life. Right? Like I just get to be in the water every day. That's just how it gets to be.
Wow.
And this, I was embodying this for like way down the road for having like a waterfront home
Yeah.
one day, right?
Yeah.
But that's one thing I was spending a lot of like conscious energy on. And then
Mhm.
the other thing was yeah, just envisioning like my balcony, envisioning like space, you know, like having a bedroom. And I will say, like, probably the most important part of all this is that while like dreaming and scheming and aligning myself to the vibration of this vision, I would say I was spending just as much time sitting in my current apartment with pure gratitude of like,
That's it.
right?
I mean, we talk about this in the
Yeah.
course, but it's like, if we're not grateful for what we already have, gratitude is the highest form of receivership. Why
Yeah.
would the universe give us more? It's like, why would a partner or a friend give you more if you're like, oh, well, like you never show up? Like they're like, okay, like I don't want to give to you because your energy, but when we're like, I'm so
Yeah.
grateful, like it's just the universe is like here, or people are just like here. It's the energy of receptivity.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad you said that. Okay, sorry.
Well, no, that's okay. Like, and you know, like, of course, like there would be moments when I'm like, oh, my studio apartment feels so claustrophobic, like, oh,
Yeah.
but like just naturally I would go through those waves, but I would like consciously, intentionally like spend times like just truly being like not mindful of like, wow, look at this view I have of the city of Vancouver. Wow, I can just walk down to Robson Street and go get anything I want right now.
Mhm.
Wow, like look at my beautiful new countertops and wow, I have a window in my shower and you know, like I have a window in my kitchen and just being so grateful of all the beautiful things about the place that I was currently in.
Yeah.
Right. So I would say that was a huge part of my work too,
Yeah.
is just feeling the gratitude in my space now.
I love that. And okay,
Yeah.
there's like a dichotomy here that you just touched on. It's like that feeling of claustrophobic, you had to feel that in
Yeah.
order to be like, okay, I'm setting a new minimum standard. And then it's like gratitude for what you have. And you're like, okay, I'm raising my minimum standard to like something more expansive. How can I expand? So it's
Yeah.
actually like you needed both of them. It
For
doesn't
sure.
the gratitude, but it's like, okay, this is like not allowing me to be my most expansive best self.
Yeah.
And it feels claustrophobic. And I'm going to be in gratitude for it energetically. That's why it started to click way faster. You became a
Yeah.
match faster than
So
your
fast.
could have anticipated. So, anyways,
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, that's like basically the gist of it. Basically, from there, like, I mean, I started looking passively for places, right? Like, all the while knowing, like, hey, I just started my business. It's going to
yeah,
take a while to have enough proof of income to really get approved
yeah,
for a new place, right?
yeah,
And to even feel steady and like knowing how much I'm going to make a month to
yeah,
get a sense of how much I can pay in rent a month. So
mhm,
I was looking passively, right? Like
yeah,
every once in a while, I look on an app or look on Marketplace, get ideas, get inspiration.
mhm,
But it wasn't like an active search with like a pressure of when or where or how, although I
yeah,
had an idea of where for sure. I definitely, that was part of my manifestation was the where. I don't know if I told you this part, but it's literally a 2-minute walk to my office, my private practice office. 2 minutes. So
what?
yeah. Yeah. So
Frustrated. Okay.
and yeah, and I also like I started joining community groups in the city that I wanted to move
Yeah.
to. right? And so I'm like, maybe this is where you get the in, right? Not
Yeah.
that there was a lot of places being posted, but then
Yeah.
one day there was an apartment that was posted in one of the community groups, and I looked at it and I'm like, oh my God, it ticks all the boxes. But I'm like, it's literally $1,000 a month more than what I'm paying right now.
Yeah.
Right. And at that point, I really had like one real month of proof of income.
Yeah.
So I was like, I mean, doesn't hurt to shoot my shot, right?
Yeah.
So I did, and I'm here. And and well, you saw my balcony, but there is an outdoor pool here as well. So I did get my water dream.
Oh my God. I'm coming to visit
Yeah.
this summer.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can't even describe it to you. Like, I just feel like even last night, like finishing, because okay, yeah, for example, yesterday I had 2 clients at my office, 2 virtual. So I'd walk there, do my in-person, walk here, walk on my walking pad for 30 minutes, eat some lunch, walk back there. Like, it's just time is money, and there's just so much flow and ease here. Everything I have is around me. And yeah, like last night, finished my workout, sat on my balcony. So nice to have a balcony. I was just sitting there and just like so much gratitude and like, holy shit, this is my life. Like, this is what I created for myself. Like, I'm still trying to process it, really.
You're like glowing. Like, it's excitement. I specifically remember I made a comment, and I'm not going to say what it is, but you were dealing with something during Reiki 1 and 2. And I said, the situation that you're in, if you shift the energy around that, it's going to shift the whole thing. And it's sometimes we get so caught in like up in like, okay, but I'm in this situation that feels like this heavy burden. And like, no matter what situation anybody is in, as long as I start to shift the relationship to it and the energy, everything in the 3D will shift. But it starts in the quantum, it starts in the energy. It's like, so many people are like the logic and the strategy, and like, yes, that is, I'm not going to negate that that's not useful, but the energy shift must come first. The strategy and the logic comes after.
Absolutely.
Always. We don't, nothing in our life can shift if we don't shift. And you're just like such an embodiment of it. And I'm just so excited to see where you are in like a year. Like, holy Toledo, that's insane. That is insane.
And then I will say, sorry, just quickly, like, right. So I've been here a month. And yeah, like, of course, like moving to a new place where you're paying $1,000 more a month in rent when you just started a business, like, again, that requires a new level of like trust and like, can I expand into this? Can I find safety in this? Can I, you know, rise to meet this? And I paid my rent with so much ease this month. I had the biggest month I've had ever, and it was easy. Like, I just, like, I expanded to a new level, and then my income just in turn expanded to a next level, and
it will keep expanding as you do inside out, which is so beautiful. Like, oh my God, I'm just so happy for you. I'm so happy for you.
And I'm grateful for you and all your teachings.
Thank you.
I am back. I just wanted to give you a little bit more context about what the quantum coding community is. So it is a powerful vortex where you sit back and I use my gifts and my own unique process of quantum coding to code your energetic body to higher frequencies. Now, each month, these frequencies compound. The frequencies that, say, are encoded in your DNA and energy body in January will then recalibrate your whole body by the next month. That will compound with the ones on top. Our frequency is our currency. So as you become encoded to higher frequencies, you'll manifest more wealth, greater health, phenomenal relationships. Have you been looking for your soulmate? These frequencies will literally allow you to become an energetic match to your dream partner with more ease. And you will seemingly have become quote unquote lucky. But we know it's not luck, it's frequency, which literally creates miracles. So one more time, I am inviting you to Quantum Coding Community at only $38 a month, which is literally insane because people pay high 4 figures, sometimes 5 figures for containers of this standard. And this time is so crucial for us to all rise into greater frequencies. So this is my offering to you so that you can come heal, to thrive, up level, and create your dream life. The link is in the show notes. And without further ado, let's go back to the show.
Yeah.
There was a couple other stories that I'm like being reminded of. I would love you to share if it feels in alignment. One was, I think you needed a number of hours for, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. So that was another thing. It's like I finished my practicum in counseling, trauma therapy, like in April. And then there's more hoops to jump through, right? Like you still need like a certain amount of supervised hours before you can apply to be a registered counselor. And being in that limbo is challenging because it's hard to get work when you're not in practicum, but you're not yet certified. So, you know, kind of lights a fire under your butt to like get those hours really quick. But in order to get those hours really quick, you got to have money to fork out.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit like, you know, feeling a little bit of stickiness in that of like, how am I gonna get all of these hours so that I can get certified so that I can start making money? And that was another interesting thing that kind of came through for me is someone, like at one of the clinics I work at, gifted me 10 free hours of supervision to help me on that journey. Right. And those are 10 hours that she could have been working with a client, making 100 and whatever an hour. And she chose to gift me like her time and her expertise to provide me with like that supervision, and then to write, of course, like the forms to submit to my certification. So those 10 hours, like that was huge, right? Like that saved me like well over $1,000.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's,
and again, like, I couldn't have imagined that happening, right?
Like it's like,
yeah,
this stuff is so magical. And that's like a form of like, if we talk about abundance, like I think so many people get so caught on it just being money. Money is one form of abundance, but like there's so many other forms, and that's just one form. Like, yes, it saved you this money, but it was like the universe coming to like support you as you kept stepping into your purpose, and you keep stepping in. And like, there's so many constructs and fears and shame in like general in society, like around money. But I think it's so important for people to realize like abundance and even money in that form can come in so many ways to support us. Like, you know, a good portion of my story from like a few years back when like I really was like honing my manifestation skills, as I said, because I had to. And like I didn't have an online business then. I had walked away from like my Reiki practice in Vancouver. It was basically all in person, and I just trusted, and I was like manifesting places to stay, and I was manifesting like abundance in so many ways that I couldn't have anticipated. And I was like, oh, I thought he needed this thing for like survival, but it's like, okay, it can come in other ways. Support can come in other ways. All we need is opportunity. And
to make space for it too, right?
100%. Like, say, we'll just give a tangible example. If you were still at your serving job and spending stuff, because that's a lot of energy. Like, you who haven't served, it is a lot of energy. You wouldn't have the energy to do what you're doing now. You wouldn't have space. So because you let that go, it made space for all of this other stuff.
And like to specifically tie that in, I would say that like if I didn't drop that serving job in December of last year,
Yeah.
there's no way that I would have had the resources, the capacity, the drive to launch my private practice immediately after graduating.
Yeah.
Right. And that was huge because now, like, I've been, like, I graduated in April, right? Like, I've been in practice less than a year.
Yeah.
And, like, I've already started building a significant private practice in addition to a clinic I work at because I started right away. Right.
Yeah.
Because I gave myself that space to, like, slowly work on the website, slowly look for an office, slowly like create this so that when I graduated, I could just hit the ground running.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
So 2 things. Something just came through for you. May I?
Okay. Yes.
Okay. I see you one day running your own like office with a bunch of facilitators and healers working for you. That vision just came through so strong.
Wow.
When and
I
if it
love that.
manifests.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to hear
That
it.
resonates. Yeah.
It was like, I just saw the whole thing. It was so cool. And then another key point here that I think is so important is like, a lot of people will say to me, well, like, this thing is just like comfortable. Like, I feel safe. Firstly, like, no job is actually safe. We saw that during like the recession. We saw that during COVID, like, no job is safe. Even if you have the safest job, it's all an illusion. The safety comes from the inside first, and then it manifests on the outside. But more importantly, on this point is like, personally, the place of comfort for me, in my experience and what I've seen in clients, when we're too comfortable, it's like, I don't want to say death, but I can't think of another word, but it's almost the worst place to be, because we're either growing and expanding or we're shrinking. And if we're too comfortable, we start to shrink. So like, whenever I'm like, oh, I'm feeling a bit stagnant, I'll be like, hey, I'm going to make an investment that kind of like stretches me, not in something like that's not aligned. It's always in something aligned. Sometimes a coach, a mentor, a training. Sometimes it's like, I just signed up for a retreat in May, and it was like, I was like, okay, I've never invested. Well, I'm in private coaching, I guess I have, but I've never invested that amount for like a 2.5-day retreat in person. And I was like, but I feel really called to, and I'm going to go and stay in a nice place. And that's kind of like an expander for me. Or like, I just invested in some trainings that I've never invested. I've invested a lot in trainings, but like never this many at once. And so it was like, I was kind of feeling stagnant, and I was like, okay, I'm like, I'm comfortable, and I don't like feeling safe in your body. And grounded is super important. It's like foundational. But like the comfort of like, oh, I don't need to stretch or grow, for me is like, oh, the worst energy. So every single time I feel that way, I'm like, hey, there's another level of expansion available. And with that is another level of impact. And so like, I'll stretch myself. And every time I do that, my nervous system recalibrates, which in turn, as a byproduct, allows me to hold more energy. And then it'll be like a divine download of a container I need to start. Like, I just launched, well, it's kind of like semi-launched. I'm going to fully launch it, but it's like a container. It's $38 a month because I wanted to impact more people. And we're going to do a live activation and a masterclass every single month. I was like, I want people to have access to this work and just to be able to like keep their frequency high and do a live thing every single month that like they'll get the replay for, so they can listen every day if they want. But like, with a year ago, with the amount of people that will eventually join this, I wouldn't have energetically been able to hold the energy and do the transmission and the activation with so many people. Like, I just did some free master classes. I had 111,
Oh my God.
another one of them, 77, another one.
Classic.
Yeah. But like, I was like, seriously, I'm like, the amount of energy that I needed to be able to hold in order to give those transmissions was like a lot. It was a lot coming through. My nervous system needed to be able to calibrate to that. how did it? Because I keep stretching myself and stretching my gifts. And like, I don't like being in a place that I'm too comfortable. I like feeling safe in my body because I had to clear a lot of trauma when I didn't feel safe for a long period of my time. I think that's so important. But like the place of comfort is like when you see people and they'll just like go to their 9 to 5 and nothing wrong with it, just not for me. Go to their 9 to 5 and then come home and eat potato chips on and like drink a couple beers on the couch. And like, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I think rest is really important. But like when that becomes a pattern and you're just like, you don't want to get out of bed, it's because you can, your body can predict, which is unconscious mind, everything that's going to happen. And then you start to lose the excitement and the zest of life and like the magic that's available when you start to stretch yourself and trust, like you're such an embodiment of it. It's so beautiful to see like miracles happen. And it's like that triumph. Like we become a new iteration of our life.
Oh yeah.
Victor, and like we're like, holy, like I did that.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not comfortable, and it's like it requires more of us. And in that, we become a new version, we become a new energy, a new frequency, and then our lives change around us. And that's like literally the basis, like, as you know, obviously, of the work that I teach and facilitate. It's like, whoa, but you must be willing to do exactly what you did, to step in, to have the courage, to step into the unknown. Somebody messaged me, she's in, well, what was Decoding Manifestation, Manifest Key Portal. Well, she actually wrote in the group, you can go look. She joined this trend and she's like, okay, this happened. I won't say exactly what happened. And I said, we did the breathwork yesterday, the shamanic breathwork distance. And she got rid of like all the pain that was in her body. She had some in her throat, is gone. She's like, I think it's a miracle. And then something happened with her partner. It was a shift. And I said, this area of unknown is where the miracles happen. And it's truly where the miracles happen. But the thing that was let go of needed to be let go of in order for them to have space. And so like, this work is not for the faint of heart. It's really not.
Yeah.
And when you do jump in, it's like fucking magic. Like you just had your biggest month that you've ever had.
Well, and but wait, there's more.
Yes.
And yeah, like, you know, having the biggest month I've ever had, because I was working at 2 clinics and my private practice. And so, you know, like at some point during all that, like my care for self was suffering, right? Like I didn't have enough time to like sleep properly, exercise, whatever. So yeah, like I made a difficult decision to let go of one of the clinics, so that I can make space for what's wanting to come through in my own endeavors where I'm, you know, making the full fee as opposed to like working for somebody. Right.
100%.
And yeah. And then I was sitting in meditation last week, which is even since making the decision that I was going to let that go, even though I haven't yet, like I gave notice. There's been like a, you know, space and clarity. And I was sitting in meditation last week, which I won't lie, I've been out of practice for quite a while, and I felt called to come back to it. And it was a Dr. Joe meditation. And immediately after, huge download. And that's something I've been sitting with for the last week of this next thing that I'm creating. And it's so big that like, even just thinking about it, I'm like, how am I going to conceptualize this? How, like, it's just, it's wild. And I also attribute part of that to this space. I'm like,
100%.
I feel so safe and so comfortable here that like, there's so much room for things to drop in and for me to like, expand into my next level. So yeah, I got something that's coming through. That's going to be really big.
We're going to obviously in the show notes. So guys, go start following her so that you can see the reveal when it happens. To you, what comes to you is for you. It's literally like from the divine, and you're meant to birth it into this world. And I think that's super important for people to know too. Like whatever comes to you, it's not a coincidence. If it comes to you, it is for you. And sometimes it'll come in the form of, oh, this is crazy. Sometimes it'll come in the form of other people. Like for me as a projector in human design, it'll come through other people saying things often, which is so crazy because Manifest Key Portal, the portal now is a whole portal, which was Decoding Manifestation, which is the course that you joined.
Yeah.
That course I channeled at that retreat that I met my shamanic teacher at, that high level mastermind that I was not a part of. And all these entrepreneurs who were like killing it in their business. I mean, there was like a dude there who like had a private plane and he was going to Tony Robbins Platinum on his private plane after like,
oh my God.
I'm like, they were like asking, I was telling stories. That's it. Just like randomly, like they picked us up from the airport and whatever. And they're like, do you have a course on this? And I'm like, no. I'm like, and they're like, 3 people in separate times asked me, and they're like, I think you should create a course on this. Like, I want to learn from you. And so we channeled in, it was right after a breath work there. And it was a 3-hour breath work, and it all came through. And I channeled my first iteration of Decoding Manifestation, which is now Manifest Key Portal. And there was like 12 modules. They're different than that. I ended up moving modules around and combining them and refining it literally till I launched it. And even through the processes, all these downloads were coming. But like, those were signs. Like I was meant to birth this course, just like the thing that you're birthing. Is to birth it. And you created space once you did. Okay, now there's energetic space for a download to come in.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have come in. And so what also happens in the quantum is like the universe will be like, it'll give us downloads sometimes. Or one of the sabotage patterns, as you know, is being so busy all the time that we don't take space for ourselves and for downloads to come in.
Mm-hmm.
And
I know that one.
Yeah. I was a pro at that, which is why I like brought all of the sabotage into the course. But so we got to shine a light on them, and then we can take action. What was I saying? Oh yeah, but if we get messages a few times and we don't take action on it, the law of action is also very real, then it will eventually go to somebody else because it has to be birthed into the world. And so like, trust these pings, guys. And I know you're going to trust it, and I know you're going to create it. So excited. But like, it's not, none of them are coincidences. So if anybody is ever like questioning, am I meant to do something with this? Yes. If it came to you, it's for you. And if you don't take action, eventually it will go to somebody else because it needs to be birthed into the world. And like, especially now as we're entering the new earth, it's like, there's so many new structures coming that need to be birthed. And we're just vessels to birth them with our own gifts and and everybody has different gifts. It's like, no, there's like a whole thing of like competition, which is a scarcity pattern. Like there is no competition in abundance. There's only co-creation. And it's like, some people are like, well, that person's doing energy healing too. So like, I need to be competitive with them. And it's like, they're meant to help certain people, and you're meant to help certain people. And there's so many people on this planet that need help and healing. And so like, there is no competition. And when you start to look through that lens, it's like, oh, literally there is abundance in all forms. And I think I really intend that humanity starts to break this more and more and more. Like only when we're all starting to like really live our gifts and like contribute is when like the new earth is really going to start to thrive. And we can't bring the paradigm of competition into that because the energies are not, they're not coherent with each other.
Yeah.
And can you imagine, I had this vision a while ago. I was like, a world where we're all living our gifts and we're all contributing and we all like love our job, and it's not like, oh, I'm going to work, but it's like, I love what I'm doing. That world, that is like the new earth, and that is massive abundance, and everyone's lit up and they love doing what they're doing and they love contributing. And it's like, whoa, that's powerful.
Yeah.
Anyways, I just
I
want to
feel that. I feel that in my body as you say that. Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So, I have one more request of a story. I only have a few more minutes because I'm getting like, and this went way longer because we had a beautiful chat of catching up of all the miracles and magic in our life. But I would love if you could tell the story briefly about how you manifested your office. Wasn't it a lady in a coffee shop or something?
So that one like evolved over time, which was really cool. So the final, like what I ended up with of my office wasn't that one, but yeah, like it basically started of like, yeah, like, you know, I had this vision. I wanted to start my private practice right away. Right. I knew that. Yeah. So again, like I was passively looking come like January, February. Yeah. And like, at first I was just looking like, you know, people that already had offices, like, can I rent it a couple days a week? Right. Mm-hmm. So the first iteration of this was me like, you know, like tentatively partnering with someone to rent their office 2 days a week in Kitsilano. And like, you know, I didn't love the vibe of the office, didn't love the location, but our days matched up, you know, financially it felt good. So there was some alignment, but I could feel that it wasn't complete alignment. Mm-hmm. So I was still open, I was still looking. And then this is the story, you know, I was getting a massage. Yeah. And my massage therapist was telling me how she started a clinic in this home that she bought. Mm-hmm. And how she was looking for like-minded practitioners to like rent the basement space on days that she was working at this other clinic. Yeah. And like, I'm like, what? Are you joking me? Like, you're just randomly bringing this up right now? Like, and her not knowing like where I'm at. Right. And I was like, wow. So yeah, I ended up like going to see her space, which was so wild. And again, like it felt closer, you know, like I was like, okay, like I feel like I'm more aligned with like the look of the space, and like it felt a little bit better, but it still wasn't completely aligned. And I can't tell you specifically concretely why. I was just like, right. And so again, like tentatively committed, well, no, I wouldn't say committed. Like she knew I was still gonna kind of explore my options, right? And then no, I don't know, like had a hit of like, no, I want my office to be out in Port Moody. These two places originally were in Vancouver, but I work at 2 clinics in Vancouver anyways. So I had this hit of like, no, like I'm originally from like Greater Vancouver, like a little bit further out. That's where all my connections are. Like I can get a lot of referrals from people out there. So I would rather make my private practice closer to there. So yeah, like I went and viewed an office space. Of course, they had one available next month, and it was at the lowest rate, which at that point felt good to me, right? Like I'm like, okay, perfect. And so, yeah, like I signed a lease for May 1st, right? Graduated in April, signed a lease for May 1st. Like I had no plan with the decor, but even that just like all came together like effortlessly. Like it looks gorgeous. It's so cozy in there. And just to finish this off, because I would say it even extended on further, is that I posted it for rent on the days of the week that I wasn't working there, because I'm working at other clinics, right? So that I could get some of that money back. But all the while, like still not feeling like my schedule at these other 2 clinics was set. And so like the ad was posted, but like I was feeling a bit of tension of like, oh, what if someone reaches out and they want these days and I commit, but I'm not completely settled about my days at these other clinics yet. Yeah. So I had it out there, but I wasn't feeling complete about it being out there yet. And so of course I didn't get any bites. I didn't get any takers, right? Like I had people being like, oh, I'm interested. And then it wouldn't work out. And I felt in my soul, I'm like, it's not working out for a reason because you still haven't figured out how it's all going to fit together. And wildly enough, the day that, well, because I'll also just mention, like, then me thinking about the fact that I was paying $1,000 more in rent at my apartment, and then I'm renting an office for $1,000, right? I'm like, that's a fat bill, right? So I started to get a little bit stressed about that. And then I kid you not, the day I got my keys to my new apartment, which is, yes, a 2-minute walk away from my office. The day I got the keys to my apartment was the day I got someone signed on a lease at a sublease at my office. Amazing. So the day I decided I was paying $1,000 more in rent was the day I got someone paying me $500 a month in rent for my office. And the best part was that, like, you know, like this person's like not even a counselor. They do different type of business. They just wanted a desk and a chair so they could have private meetings. They only needed it Thursday, Friday, which were the only days I didn't need it. Like it was perfect. He had no hesitations about the cost. He's like, yeah, no issues. Where I was going to lower it to get someone in. Nope. It just came with complete ease. And on the exact day I got my keys to my apartment.
Of course, it's just a line, because sometimes we'll get tested and it's a thing. It's like, oh, that's almost what I want, but not full. And it's like, we gotta hold the frequency and the alignment and say no to the things, even if they're almost, and then the thing will come. And then I love this energetic, because you're like, no, I'm committing to my apartment. And as soon as you did that, this came, because when you cap one end, then you cap both. It's like a hose. So like for money, abundance, opportunities, whatever. But in this energetic, it's money. So it's like you unkink the hose and you're like, I'm just trusting and surrendering. And I'm taking this apartment. And then all of a sudden, of course, the money came in as well.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's an ebb and flow. It's not something like this thing, I need to hoard it. Like that's actually when one of my mentors said this, they're like, when you hoard money, it gets stinky, it gets stale. And I was like, oh, that's awful. And it's true. Like it needs to move. And the more it moves, the more you're a vessel for it, a safe vessel. And it's not like, oh, I'm just going to hoard this just for me. It's like, no, it's like coming in and out. And then that's how also the economy starts to go. Okay. I have a couple more minutes and then I do really have to go. So my last question is like, for anybody who's like wanting to get into like manifestation and like frequency work and coding, and everything we talked about like in the course, what would you say to them going through the process and like being like, this feels in alignment, but I'm scared, and like trusting? What would you say to them?
Yeah. Ooh. Hard to concisely put this one together on the spot, but I would say what's coming through first and foremost is that, like, you know, like there was a period in time. I mean, Jill even alluded to this earlier about herself, like being like, there was a time in my life when I thought this was all a load of whatever, right? Like, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I will say that specifically, like, is exactly why we need to heal our trauma first.
Yes.
Right? Because that is the block. Because like we can be on a cognitive level, we can be kind of, you know, like working with these techniques all day. But if there's like literal blocks in our body, like saying like, no, that's unsafe. No, I can't have that. Then it's not going to come in. Right. And so, it is going to seem phony to you because there's stuff in the way. Right. So first and foremost, heal your traumas, right? Like acknowledge them even, right? Like, you know, like it's not a trauma Olympics. It's not trauma competition. Like we don't, like yours is valid, even if it's not some big, whatever thing.
100%.
So heal your trauma and get yourself a mentor who's even 2 steps ahead of you in this process, because they're a map. They're an energetic map. The coding, like you'll embody that, you'll pick up on that. And then last but not least, absolutely take Jill's course.
Thank you. Thank you.
Honestly, like it's never been clearer and like better communicated and laid out than the way Jill laid it out for me. Because I've been dabbling with this stuff for years, but the information's just been like a little bit everywhere. And it's like, oh, how do I even, but the way Jill lays it out, like it's all like in a perfect order that just like makes sense. And you feel it like on a soul level. It's not like, oh, I need to listen to that again so I can memorize it. Like, no, it just like it's a transmission.
Yeah,
right?
literally.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. And it's so important, like the trauma. And I that's why I bring in the breath work. But like if people need it, like on a deeper level, like you're doing this work, there's so many amazing practitioners that are starting to like come up. And that's one thing that it was like, okay, like such a big block for people. And everybody has trauma. Let's just like normalize it. Everybody has trauma. It's not what happened, it's what happened inside the body. So like healing that is so crucial. And then thank you for saying that about my course, because it's like a lot of people have said that to me. They're like, I tried all of these things and none of them clicked until I did the course. And I so strongly believe, because it was divinely guided, it came through me. And then also like the transmissions are coded. They're literally coded in frequency, which is the mentorship thing too. It's so important to have a mentor that really aligns, because they're just going to shorten that time period for you. And they're going to change your frequency. And like, I think everybody should have a mentor or a coach at all times. And sometimes it'll change. You'll have one for like a year and be like, amazing, I got those codes. And then it'll be another one. Sometimes you might have the same one for 5 years. It's really like a personal thing, but your soul knows. And the last point I'll make here is like, in the Manifest Key portal, like it's also the activations. That is a key thing that so many people are missing. I don't even know when they started to come through. It was like I'm like, I need to start recording things for people. And then I started learning more and more. And then they kind of just like evolved into this thing. And I'm like, I'm channeling activations. I don't even know what those are. And those are the frequency transmissions. And that's like so important. And like also for anybody listening, like I said, I'm starting the Quantum Codes Club. It's $38 a month. We're doing a activation every single month and a masterclass. So if you're interested in dabbling into this work and like want to start like creating these miracles and magic at a price point that's like that anybody can invest in this if they want to. Anybody. And if you're like, well, no, I can't, like, okay, go look at where you're releasing money that's really not fully in alignment. You can make it work. And for those of you who are just like, I want something to just like brush up my skills, like welcome. And stay tuned for what Hunter is coming. It is going to be amazing, and I'm so freaking excited.
Thank you.
It's needed. I really think that it's needed for the space. So
thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Your info in the show notes for those of who are listening, who want support in healing trauma. And we'll take your Instagram as well. Is Instagram the best place to find you?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, awesome. So they can follow you, and then whatever they called to resonates. Okay. I love you so much.
Oh, you too. This is lovely.
It was so
Thanks,
lovely.
Jill.
Thank you for coming on.
My pleasure. Bye.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with anyone and everyone that you think would benefit from it. Share it on your social media and tag me at Jill Alana Nixon so I can hear what breakthroughs and insights you got. If you really enjoyed this, I would really appreciate if you wrote a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. If you do this and you email my team, JillAlanaNixon@gmail.com, we'll link it in the show notes, I will send you a cord-cutting transmission that is only available through this avenue, so that you can clear out people, places, habits, or situations that are no longer in alignment with your highest good, and call back your power. Thank you so much, and have the most beautiful, blessed day.